Waninakani tampagas katasquamson. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? Neesu Wushuwunoag, Director General, Federation of Aboriginal Nations of the Americas. Hoping that this video finds you well. Know there's a lot going on, lots of different stuff happening, quarantines and viruses and just craziness. So, on top of all that, the census just came out, so I know people are getting them at their places of residence or homes or whatever status you're in, you're getting it. And I'm sure that there are lots of questions floating around. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we were the ones who kind of set the dialogue off about the whole census and how it applied to Indians here in the US. So, thought it would be appropriate just to address a few things. Primarily, when people are looking at the census, wanted to share 3 things that you should definitely not do if you're an Indian and you're getting ready to fill out and you're considering filling out the 2020 census. Now, I want to be very clear on behalf of FAUNA, on behalf of myself as an individual, on behalf of all of the member nations. We are not telling anyone how they should fill out the census. Everyone has to fill out the census according to how they self-identify and according to what their truth is in terms of who their heritage is. So FANA, Neesu, none of the member nations of FANA are giving you any sort of advice. We don't have any ability or power to advise you on how you should fill out the census because it has to be specific to you. But we do want to give just 3 pointers for Indians, and this is specific to Indians. I can't speak on behalf of Moors, people from Africa. We are not giving any advice to any of you all. This is specifically for Indians who are trying to figure out whether they should fill out the 2020 census. And should they decide to do it, these are just 3 things to be wary of or to make sure not to do as you fill it out. So let's get started. The first, do not renounce your U.S. citizenship if you are an Indian and you are filling out the 2020 census. Now, I know that you hear from a lot of different sources, oh, the census this and the census that, and the census is for their property and this, that, and the other. And first of all, the census is dealing with the enumeration of citizens. And what is a citizen? Well, let's look at what Black's Law 2nd edition says about it. It says it's a member of a free city or jural society. So that's the first thing. When we're talking about citizenship and the U.S. Census is enumerating citizens, it's enumerating members of the free or jural society that is known as the United States. Now, I know people say, oh, this isn't the U.S., it's a corporation, it was a republic. Put whatever name you want to put there. It's dealing with the jural society that is that. So I'm just going to use the U.S. because that's what we're dealing with. Second, this citizen possesses all the rights and privileges which can be enjoyed by any person under its constitution and government. So citizens enjoy rights and privileges under the constitution of the government of whatever jural society that they're in. So if you're talking the U.S., then it's the Constitution. And it's all of the laws that flow from underneath that. And then the third part is that they're also subject to the corresponding duties. So along with the rights and privileges, you have certain responsibilities you have to live up to. And that's pretty much what a citizen is. And of course, in the U.S., one of those things is taxation, right? Which everyone dislikes. So the point being that as citizens of the U.S., you get rights and privileges under the Constitution, but you also have duties and obligations. So let's take this and apply it to Indians. And let's examine the fact that whether you fill out the census or not, you are a U.S. citizen. Whether you fill the census out or not, you are a U.S. citizen. If you look at 8 U.S.C. 1401B, which is the codification of the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, or the Snyder Act, what you'll see is that all Indians born within the territorial limits of the United States are citizens. And what that means from a commercial perspective is if you have a state birth certificate. If you were born somewhere and issued a state birth certificate, you are a U.S. citizen, whether you fill out the census or not. Whether you fill out any other documents or not, you are down in the system as a U.S. citizen, point blank. So let's examine that for a moment. As an Indian, you're already a citizen, whether you choose to fill out the census or not. So as a citizen, being already a citizen, you have to keep in mind that U.S. citizenship is a status that people all over the world covered. All over the world covered. You saw people, remember, what was it, last year they had caravans coming all the way up from South America to the U.S. border trying to get in because of all of the violence that was going on back where they were from. So people from all over the world are coveting this U.S. citizenship status, and you have it right now. So just take a moment to think about that. Secondly, really, as what you should be doing as an Indian with U.S. citizenship is looking to reclassify. I mean, that's what the whole issue is, right? We got misclassified to things like black, colored, African American, Latino, white, whatever the case may be. We got reclassified, misclassified, away from our proper status as an Indian. So as a U.S. citizen, you can also look at the census as an opportunity to reclassify yourself, to have some official record down somewhere that you're an actual Indian, not just whatever they chose to label you and your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents went with out of fear. We're at a space now where you don't have to be afraid anymore. So you can put down boldly who you are. So think about that for a moment. Rather than relinquishing your U.S. citizenship, why aren't you simply just reclassifying your status so that you're acknowledged properly in the system as what they have designated for you? All right, so first of all, people all over the world are coveting this U.S. citizenship status that you have. You can simply look to reclassify your status if you are misclassified, which is what the issue is with most of the people that have been following, I do believe. You're looking at how you address the misclassification that took place. And then lastly, and this is what discussed in a previous video, there's the potential for dual citizenship status. And this once again comes from 8 U.S.C. 1401B, which said that Indians are citizens so long as U.S. citizenship does not impact or impede their right to tribal property. What that should tell you then is that you can have tribal property as an Indian and it won't be impacted by your U.S. citizenship, which clearly means that the jurisdiction for tribal property, i.e. the tribe, is separate and foreign to the U.S. Of course, however, that comes from taking the proper steps, which is what the FAUNA member nations have done to be properly commercially viable in order to enforce that jurisdiction. The point overall being, however, that as a citizen of the U.S., as an Indian, you don't need to relinquish your U.S. citizenship in order to restore your tribal citizenship in whatever tribal nation you're from. So relinquishing your citizenship doesn't actually help you get closer to your tribe. Actually, what it does is it turns you into a stateless citizen. Because if you're not a U.S. citizen and you're not a citizen of any other viable tribal nation, then you don't have citizenship anywhere, in which case, how are you on this land? And in particular, what happens once you relinquish U.S. citizenship is you can no longer enforce constitutional rights. They don't apply to you. They don't apply to you. If you're not a U.S. citizen, then what are you talking about the Constitution for? Why would it apply to you? Unless it specifically states at points where non-citizens have certain rights, the vast majority of that document is not going to apply to you. You're not a U.S. citizen. It has nothing to do with you. Secondly, you're going to have no protection on or rights to the land. Because once again, if your tribe is not commercially viable, then in the system it's like it doesn't exist. So if you're not a U.S. citizen and you're not a citizen of a tribe that exists, then what are you a citizen of? In which case you have no protections. You don't exist anywhere. And you have no rights to land. Because what you're not a citizen in the U.S., which they have certain rights to be over here, and you're not a citizen of any viable tribe, so where are you a citizen? In which case, you don't have any rights. And you might very well have bloodlines that go right back, but you went and relinquished U.S. citizenship, and you're not a citizen of any other nation, so you don't have any rights. And that'll be that. And then lastly, you're going to open the door right up for you to be labeled an identity extremist. And notice I'm not saying black identity extremist. That's one of the labels. But up in Canada, they're using Aboriginal identity extremist. It really doesn't matter what you call yourself. As soon as you put yourself in a position where you're a citizen or a non-citizen, who's not a citizen of anything else that is superior to here, who's not utilizing the system to address your grievances, i.e. either voting, engaging with those who you have elected to office or running for office yourself. As soon as you don't do that, you're going to be looked at as a threat to the domestic safety and order of things. And they're going to treat you like an identity extremist, like a domestic terrorist. They're going to lock you up. You don't even have to do anything violent. They're going to find a way to try to get you. So you're going to open yourself up to be an identity extremist by relinquishing U.S. citizenship. So don't renounce your U.S. citizenship as you're doing the U.S. Census. If you're an Indian and you're going to fill it out, you're already a U.S. citizen. And no citizenship, if you're not a member of a commercially viable tribal nation, is going to mean that you're a stateless citizen. It's also going to pull you out of a lot of things that are necessary for functioning in this system, like social security numbers, like all of those sorts of things. It's going to take them right away from you, and you're going to have to figure out how to operate in this system that's based off of all of that without those things. And are you truly, fully ready for that? And not being a part of anything else that's being established to address those. So, first things, if you're an Indian and you're considering filling out the 2020 census, do not renounce your U.S. citizenship. Once again, you should be looking to reclassify, and you should be looking to reestablish your relationships with your tribal nation. And all of those things are separate and apart from the U.S. Census. You renouncing your U.S. citizenship or relinquishing it does nothing to move that process along. Does absolutely nothing. It just makes it harder for you and gives the colonial powers more justification to feel like they can abuse your rights. So that's the first thing. If you're an Indian and you're considering filling out the 2020 U.S. Census, don't relinquish your U.S. citizenship while you're doing it. So let's look at the second thing, and this is so key, and this is what we've been telling. This is why things like pedigree, support by documentation and history, and being specific is so important. Do not make claims on the U.S. Census form that you cannot substantiate. The biggest one that we've seen floating around is this Indian not tax thing, which is why we just did a video on it a little while ago, so that you'll understand what that is and how it most likely doesn't apply to you. Because the last thing you want to do is put on a record that you're an Indian not taxed, and you're not really an Indian not taxed, and then you start going around trying to be not taxed, and they know exactly who it is that's doing it. Exactly who it is that's doing it. Exactly who it is that's doing it. So don't make claims you can't substantiate. Don't use like your new name that you came up with. They're not going to find that in the record anywhere. And now you're going to put down your new name as being a part of the U.S. citizen. You're never going to see Neesu Wushuwunoag on anything that's owned by the U.S. that subjugates Neesu. The colonial appellation goes there. And that's what the power of the dual citizenship status is for Indians. It's two separate persons. So Neesu's in a jurisdiction that's separate from the U.S. My colonial appellation is in it. And I can utilize both because citizenship was conferred upon me. I never sought it. I never asked to be a citizen. They said, you're a citizen, and this is what it is. So since that's what it is, that's fine. But as you can see, and as I pointed out, they made sure to leave leeway so that the respect was shown for the separation of jurisdiction between tribal jurisdiction and U.S. jurisdiction. So don't make claims you can't substantiate. They need to be based in your pedigree or your genealogy. And there's another video that we did on tradition, culture, and heritage, where we go a little bit deeper into pedigree and how that plays into the substantiation of claims. But don't make claims you can't substantiate. Don't make claims you can't substantiate. It has to be based in your bloodline, lineage, who you are. And this is what's going to jam a lot of the people faking and playing Indian out, because if you put down that you're an Indian, but then they have all the records and there's nowhere in your record where it's showing that that's what your people are, that's a false claim. All right? If you're claiming to be a part of a tribe and you have no relationship or established with that tribe and nothing that you can show, that'll be a false claim. And remember, these are commercial documents that you're filling out. These are commercial claims that you're making. So you don't want to play. You don't want to do the I'm an autochthonous American copper-colored Aborigine. There's no nation called autochthonous American copper-colored Aborigine. No nation whatsoever. You're not going to find any landmass that was controlled by a nation called copper-colored autochthonous American Aborigine. All right? There's specific nations and specific bloodlines and family lines that are carried on today that are associated with those nations. And you don't have the right to claim them because you have a similar complexion to them. That's just not the way that the world works. That's the way we were colonized to think. But that's not actual logical thinking when you take off the colonized mindset and apply common sense and knowledge to it. So don't make claims you can't substantiate on the US Census. Just don't do it. It's a commercial document. And think about this. Imagine this combination, right? You renounce your U.S. citizenship like we told you not to do at first, and then you claim to be something that you can't prove. Now you don't have anything to come back to because you're not a U.S. citizen anymore, and you're being charged with a fraudulent claim or showing that which claims that you made can't be substantiated, so you're not a part of that either. Once again, you're a stateless citizen with no protections and no rights. So first, don't renounce your U.S. citizenship if you're an Indian considering filling out the U.S. Census. Second, don't make claims on that you cannot substantiate, and you need to be specific. You cannot put generic American. There's not even an option for American Aborigine. An American Aborigine is not a nationality. Autochthonous is not a nationality. None of your tribe, your specific tribe, is your nationality. So you can't put American Indian and an autochthonous. You can't put I'm not a U.S. citizen, I'm a citizen of American copper color. You can't do that. None of that makes sense. Don't do that. Be very specific about who you are and where your bloodlines connect to, and make sure that you know why you're saying that. So that's two. Once again, the first, don't renounce your U.S. citizenship. You should be looking to reclassify your status and seeking to pursue the dual citizenship status that American Indians are afforded and entitled to. And secondly, don't make claims that you can't substantiate. This is a commercial document. It's a commercial record. And the powers that be know who you are. They know your history well. A lot of us are just waking up to it. So don't play any games. Don't try to pull a fast one. Don't do any. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. It doesn't matter. It's all about your bloodlines and the status that you're in. And in order to get to specific statuses, there's certain things that have to be done. You can't just proclaim it. That's not the way this works. You can't just proclaim it. You have to actually go through and rectify records. So that's second, don't make claims you can't substantiate. And the third one, and this one I think we're a little dismayed and confused by, but we will address it here. Do not put FAUNA down anywhere on the U.S. Census form. FAUNA has nothing to do with the U.S. Census form. FAUNA is not a tribe. FAUNA is not a nation. FAUNA is a confederation of nations. None of the FAUNA tribal citizens are putting FAUNA down on any of their U.S. Census forms. So how outrageous would it be for someone who's not associated or has no relationship with any actual FAUNA member nation to put down FAUNA on their census form? And most certainly don't put down FAUNA, Indian not taxed. That sounds like an entire and complete sham. Entire and complete sham. Your individual nation has to have achieved that status and further have had it confirmed. See, each of the FAUNA member nations, we have had this confirmed with federal entities. From the the Census Bureau, the northeastern region of the Census Bureau, to the Washington, D.C. Social Security Administration, to local federal congressmen here. We've had these statuses confirmed that our understanding is correct. There's been confirmation. So it's not something we think. It's not something we sent the letter off and never got a return response from. It's not something that we're going to get into court and argue about. It's none of that. It's what we know to be true and what other people have confirmed. So most certainly do not put FAUNA down, and most certainly do not put FAUNA Indian not taxed. You're going to bring, first of all, FAUNA is not a nation, like I said. Secondly, it's not associated with the U.S., so putting FAUNA down on a U.S. form makes no sense. That's like putting European Union on a form, African Union, the Russian Federation, I don't know, whatever type of confederacy that's out there, putting that down as your nation. It's not a nation. A confederacy is not a nation by definition. So it's not a nation. It's not associated with the U.S. And lastly, you're going to call negative attention to yourself. If I was a census person and I was looking at this and I saw someone put down as their nationality FAUNA Indian not taxed, I'd be like, who on earth is, oh, okay, they live there. All right, go check them out because something seems funny. And now you probably had federal agents coming and asking you questions, and then you're going to be in a whole heap of trouble because all of this self-identification stuff, all of the undrips and A-drips and that's based upon an actual truth. Not just what you say, but on the truth. If you say you're Nahigansett and then you don't have any bloodlines that tie back to Nahigansett, and then they come and ask the tribe, do you know this person? And we say, no, we don't know him. You don't get to self-identify as a Meshipog Nahigansett because you want to. That's a false claim. You're going to be in a heap of trouble, especially if you've been doing things like saying you don't have to pay taxes and stuff like that, or you don't have to follow the laws. Actually, it comes across as just the same as an African American or Moorish national or any of these other terms that the quote-unquote Aborigine community likes to look down upon and mock. There's no difference. There's no difference. There's absolutely, these are all colonial misnomers. The term Indian is a colonial misnomer. Autochthonous is a colonial misnomer. Aboriginal is a colonial misnomer. None of these are terms that we called ourselves. None of us spoke English. That's a foreign language to these lands. So don't put FAUNA down on anything. Don't put FAUNA down on anything with the US Census, and most certainly don't put FAUNA in conjunction with Indians not taxed. It's not going to help you at all. FAUNA is not a tribe. FAUNA is not a nation. FAUNA is not going to reach out to help. FAUNA is not going to advocate. FAUNA is not going to do any of that. FAUNA's role and efforts are specific to the FAUNA member nations. The FAUNA member nations just decided that it would be good to put out some general information for those who are honestly and earnestly seeking. This is not the time, people, let me be very clear with you. This is not the time to try to pull a fast one on the U.S. federal government. This isn't. The census is not the time to do that. The census is not the time to see what you can get away with. The census is not the time it's just not the time. It's not. Once again, we're not telling you what to do. We're not giving any advice on what to do with the U.S. Census. That is up to you and how you self-identify. FAUNA has a relationship and obligations to the FAUNA member nations and their tribal citizens. So whatever you decide to put down is your decision for you to put it down. But we will tell you not to do these three things. Do not renounce your U.S. citizenship. Rather, you should be looking to reclassify and looking to get back to a relationship with your tribe so that you can pursue the dual citizenship status. Do not make claims that you can't substantiate. Base them in pedigree and genealogy, your family relationships, your lines of descent. Have it supported by documentation and history. And be specific. This copper-colored is, listen, it's going to get you in trouble. It's going to get you in trouble. You're going to be just like an African American. There's no place called copper-colored Aboriginal. There's no place called autochthonous. There's no place called Indian. That's why they're asking on there what your specific or your principal tribe is. All right? And at the very least, if you're not associated with a tribe and you're just going for the lineage thing, well, at least you still your U.S. citizenship, that you can be a U.S. citizen who is an Indian because this is what your lineage comes from. And thirdly, do not put FAUNA down anywhere on the U.S. Census. It is not going to help you. It is not some get-out-of-jail-free card. It's not the magic passcode. It's not going to mean anything in the U.S. Census form at all. FAUNA has nothing to do with the census. FAUNA has nothing to do with the U.S. That is not going to help you. And if they come and ask if you're a member of FAUNA, we're going to have to say no because there's no individual members. Do not put FAUNA down on the U.S. Census, and most certainly do not put FAUNA down on the U.S. Census in collaboration with anything around an Indian not taxed. You're going to bring all sorts of negative attention to you, attention you don't want from federal authorities because they're going to know that you're trying to pull a fast one and not try to pay taxes. That's it. All I've got to share this evening. Do hope that it's beneficial and helpful to you as you're exploring the option. Just laid out some thoughts, but it is up to you how you decide to do it. Do not listen to anyone giving you the magic sauce on how to fill out the U.S. Census. It is your self-identification based upon what you know about yourself to be true. And once again, if you're an Indian, if you're an actual Indian, don't renounce that citizenship. It was conferred upon you. Look to reclassify and look to reestablish your dual citizenship status, and you don't need to renounce U.S. citizenship to do that. Hoping this is beneficial and informational to you all out there, family. I know there's turbulent times going on. If you are our people were a praying people and a faithful people to Creator above. All sorts of craziness has come in since then. We got caught up in all kinds of stuff. Just get back to what that basis was. You know, talk to Creator. Talk to Creator. Talk about the things that are going on. And ask that we continue to be guided through, because that's what's been going on since this place called Earth started. And that's the only thing that's going to bring us through. As you can see, there's complete lack of control around you. The only thing you can do is hold on to your sanity and onto your relationship with Creator. Those are the things that matter right now. And love your family. Hug and love and kiss your family. Much respect to you all out there for paying attention and listening to the words that we share. And as always, Aquani, peace be unto you. Peace Kanash. I hope to see you soon. Aho.